Getting into folding phones is always a difficult decision, especially when they come in at twice the amount of the price as other flagship phones out there. And for the past year after using the Fold 5, I actually thought that folding phones were going to be the future for a lot of people. I mean, we're talking about having a regular day use phone whenever it's in the close mode. And then if you ever want to have a mini tablet, you can just open it up and now you can play games, you can read your books, you have a mini tablet wherever you go. But instead of going in the right direction, I feel that Samsung didn't really make a great decision on raising the price for the Fold 6 another $100 on top of what the Fold 5 was a year ago at the launch price. And because of that, I actually think this is going to be making this phone less accessible, because in all of our heads, as the years went by, they would actually come down in price as the tech becomes more easily accessible, less R&D goes into the phone. So realistically, it should have dropped in price, but unfortunately it did increase this year with the Fold 6. What the Fold 6 does really well though is going to be that it is a more well-polished phone. After using it for the past couple of weeks, I actually think this is the best design phone out there. It feels a lot more lightweight. It's definitely a little bit more portable, and then the squared off design is just one of the best decisions they made. And because of that, I do want to look at the Fold 6 as someone that comes from the Fold 5 and how it differs from the Fold 5 and whether it's worth upgrading for all you Fold 5 users just like myself, and also at the Fold 6 from someone that's brand new to folding phones and whether the folding phone from Samsung is the best choice for you. And to start off, we can start looking at the new changes that are from the Fold 5, which make it feel more premium like I mentioned, and that's going to be mainly on the front screen. It is going to be slightly wider, slightly shorter, making it easier to use with everyday to-day use. You might think that a couple millimeters isn't really that much of a difference, and if you do place them side to side, yeah, it's not really that much of a difference. But whenever you're using it on a daily basis, I myself like to use a swipe keyboard. So going a couple millimeters wider, actually widen the keyboard enough that I actually make less mistakes whenever I'm swiping on the keyboard, because all of the keys feel like where my natural finger position would go whenever I'm swiping. And it is by no means the same size as a regular phone. It is still not wide enough where you can feel like you're using a normal phone and then open it up into a tablet. It's still really narrow. So if you're someone that's not used to a narrow screen, going to a folding phone from Samsung is going to feel quite narrow in comparison to something from like Google or something from OnePlus. But that front screen also does feel a little bit wider because of the new case design overall. The aluminum bezels are actually quite thinner than they were on the Fold 5, and because of that, the front slab of glass is actually a little bit wider, making it feel like the screen overall is wider, but it does still have those bezels wherever the glass is, so it is still just slightly wider than the Fold 5. But something else that the aluminum case actually added to the Fold 6 is that it makes it easier to use, and when you pair it with that squared off edges in the rectangular phone, it actually makes it easier to use one-handed. It's less slippery, and whenever you're going to open the phone, having those aluminum edges actually makes it easier to fold open. In comparison to the Fold 5 that had stainless steel edges, I actually struggled quite a bit with whenever I had my fingers that were already oily just from everyday use. Whenever I try to open up the phone, my fingers would actually slip, making it harder to use. I do want to say that that's for someone like myself that's using a caseless. If you do use a case, they usually add a lip that it makes it a lot easier to open, but whenever you're going caseless, the stainless steel sides are actually more difficult. What I ended up doing with my Fold 5 was actually using a little bit of grip tape so that I can add a little bit of grip whenever I want to open it, and it was a lot easier. But with the Fold 6, it makes it a lot easier to use and open because of the aluminum edges. And then something else that the squared off design also adds is that it makes it feel a lot more premium, and now it comes in this white color if you order from Samsung exclusively, and I really like the white phone. I feel like it looks a lot better than the Fold 5. It could be just because I'm into white accessories and it pairs well with my whole desk setup, but I just think it looks a lot better than the Fold 5. So if you are looking for an exclusive color, you will have to go through Samsung. It does also come in another exclusive carbon fiber, but all the other colors are pretty normal if you want to choose one of those other colors as well. And the Fold 6 now also is slightly thinner. It's slightly lighter. Again, this is going to be similar to that front screen where it's barely minimally different from the Fold 5, but whenever you're using it on an everyday basis, you can kind of feel that difference. I'm not going to say that it's going to feel now like a feather compared to the Fold 5, but it is slightly lighter compared to the Fold 5. And when you pair that along with the design of the phone being squared off and being flat edged, it is a lot easier to hold. I do also want to mention that with the flat edges, you can actually open up the hinge, and now the hinge leaves less of a gap, because obviously whenever you have curves, it's a lot harder for them to match up perfectly. But with the squared off design, there's less of a gap around the hinge, and I think this could be part of why they added a little bit of dust resistance. The Fold 6 now comes with IP48, whereas the Fold 5 didn't have any dust resistance at all. I will say that when you are setting up the phone, it will still tell you to keep it away from dust because it is not dust resistant. So definitely don't go out and take it to the beach, put it in the sand, because this could still damage the hinge of the display. But I think it does benefit a little bit better by having an IP rating that also includes some dust resistance. And what the hinge also helps with is that now, because it is opened up all the way, I don't know if it comes from this, but it actually helps the inner screen display a lot better with that kind of bump or ridge that you would feel in the center. This is going to be very helpful for a lot of people that are using the S Pen with the folding phone, because on the Fold 5 it is very pronounced. You can definitely feel it if you go over it with your finger, but on the Fold 6 this is not there. It's just not as easily noticeable. But as you guys can see, kind of the whole thing around the Fold 6, especially when you compare it to the Fold 5, everything is just very minimal. Everything is stuff that you can't really notice. It's like a gram less lighter. It's a little bit different on the case design. The front screen is a couple millimeters wider. It's not really that different. And for a phone, for me, to cost $100 more than the Fold 5, I think in terms of the design, it's still not worth it. But when you look at other things such as the design of the display and the battery, you're going to see it's the same exact thing. So if we go over to the display, it is going to be slightly brighter. So if you do use it outdoors, it could help a bit, but I think the Fold 5 was already light enough, or I guess bright enough, so that you can use it outdoors. The battery is supposed to be a little bit better being on the Fold 6, but I personally am actually noticing relatively the same. I am with the Fold 6 roughly 30 to 35 at the end of the night, where on the Fold 5, I'm 25 to 30%. I actually took a screenshot where, using both of these phones with the same amount of percentage, I got more screen on time with the Fold 5 versus the Fold 6. Now this is going to depend on a whole bunch of other factors, like where was the brightness, what apps were you using, were they kind of heavy kind of tasks that you were using on the Fold 5, but I mainly use my Fold the same way, both of these phones. If I'm watching content, I have it at 100% brightness, whether it's a YouTube video or a movie, whatever that may be. And if I'm just scrolling through like Reddit or Instagram, I'm usually around 50%. And then at the end of the night, I scroll it all the way back to like 10% of the brightness. I've been using them both almost the exact same way in that way. So I think that the fact that the Fold 5 can get slightly more screen on time, or at least the same, it means that the battery is not that much better on the Fold 6. It is a slightly faster processor. Again, I never really noticed a difference. It's very minimal. It's probably faster in some ways that I can't notice it. Maybe if you game a lot on the phone, it'll help. Where it will help though, it will be if you use a lot of the AI features. I personally don't use any of the new ones, at least. I'm not an artist, so I'm not going to use the new kind of picture create from it. I don't really record any meetings, so I'm not going to need like the summarize from the recording. And for all of the rest, they actually already on the Fold 5, at least the ones I use, you can summarize through Samsung Internet. You can go ahead and circle to search on the Fold 5 as well. All of those changes or all of those AI features are already available on the Fold 5, which I think are going to be the main ones that everyone uses. And then something that stayed the same is actually going to be the camera in terms of specs. All of the specs are the exact same on the Fold 5 versus the Fold 6. And for me, that's unfortunately a huge disappointment, because I was actually not super impressed with the Fold 5 cameras, especially when you place them up against like the S24 Ultra, the iPhone 15 Pro, or even the Pixel 8a. I feel like they're lacking a little bit, especially in the video department. So because of that, it's a little bit disappointing, especially when the phone comes in at $100 more for the base level compared to last year's Fold 5. I do have to commend Samsung on that point though, because if you are going to be trading in a phone, you can get quite a bit of trade-in value, especially if you're coming from last year's phone. Not all the companies will do this, so that is a great kind of value, I guess, if you like to upgrade every single year. But when you look at the big picture of what you're getting on the Fold 6 versus the Fold 5, I personally don't think it's worth it. I don't think it's worth the extra $100 for the base value, and I especially don't think it's worth paying an extra $600 to trade in your Fold 5 and getting a Fold 6. But there are other groups of people, like I mentioned, if you guys are coming from a non-folding phone, I do think that the Fold 6 is the best folding phone out there. If you look at the Pixel 1, that does have a slightly better front screen, but I think the design of that overall phone, when you open it, having those huge bezels, I think it's a little outdated. This is a video that is being recorded before the Pixel Fold 2 is released, or the Pixel 9 Pro Fold, or whatever they decide to call it. This is from a month before, so maybe we do see something different when that releases. But then if you look also at the OnePlus, the screen is a little bit better. It had some issues at the beginning where people were getting dead pixels, where some of the software actually has trouble kind of keeping up with that folding and closing. So if you're in the US, if you're looking for a folding phone, those are really the only three that are available here, readily available for anyone. I think that the Samsung one just wins. It just has a better ecosystem if you're looking for a smartwatch to pair along with it. They have headphones, they have tablets, they have laptops. If you're looking to build an ecosystem, I think it's best to go with Samsung. They also have a lot of customizability, having that Good Lock app to kind of customize your home screen, customize the way your apps behave, customize all of your shortcuts through the Shortcuts app. There's really a lot of things that you can do within Samsung to customize your phone. And then lastly, just kind of the app compatibility. Samsung did really well having closed apps and being able to transition from having a closed app to an open app, so that whenever you open up your phone, it's a seamless transition. Your app's still open, you're still in the exact same place that you were when it was closed, and you get the same information on the screen as well. And if you're someone that just likes to have the best of the best, the newest display, the newest features, the newest design, then I think it just goes without saying that you're probably going to upgrade from the Fold 5 over to the Fold 6. And honestly, I wouldn't blame you. The features and the changes are still really great. I just think that for myself, the change in price and that upgraded price to go from the Fold 5 to the Fold 6 just isn't worth it. What are your thoughts? Are you going to be upgrading to the Fold 6 if you're coming from a Fold 5, or are you going to be getting the Fold 6 as a new phone? Let me know down in the comments. As always, thank you guys for watching. Click here to watch another one of my videos, and I will catch you guys in the next one.